Chapter 53 of The Ice Monster by David Walliams, narrated by me. Chapter 53 Danger Everywhere. The plan was unravelling fast. Now there was no way Elsie and Wooly could wait for HMS Victory to reach the Royal Hospital. Danger was everywhere. They had to keep moving. The pair fled through the doors, past the columns and the statue of the hospital's much-loved founder, Charles II. And across the lawn that led down to the Thames, the river was frozen over. Would the ice take the weight of a 2-ton mammoth? With policemen chasing them across the snow with rifles, there was only one way to find out. Bang, bang, bang! Shots rang out. Birds in the trees took to the sky in fear. Elsie ducked her head and dug her heels into the animal's sides to make her gallop faster. Woo! Wooly charged across the snow and leaped off the riverbank, landing hard on the ice. Thud! Fortunately, the ice didn't crack, but it was slippery from all the ice skaters. The mammoth's legs slid out from under her, and she went spinning across the ice. Whoo! No! Screamed Elsie. They'd hit the ice so fast there was no stopping them. Round and round they whirled, the mammoth's legs sprayed out like a starfish. Whiz! Wooly ploughed through some early morning ice skaters who were sent spinning across the ice if they were part of some mass dance spectacular. Ah! They cried. Sorry, called out Elsie. Not that the apology seemed to help at all. Up ahead was a small rowing boat that must have become stuck in the ice. They were speeding right towards it. Whiz! The girl closed her eyes. Boom! The boat smashed into pieces. Wood exploded across the ice. The force of the blow caused Elsie to become separated from her friend. No! They each came to a stop on opposite sides of the river. Battered and bruised, the girl rose unsteadily to her feet. She looked across the ice. The poor mammoth was having a much more difficult time of it. Every time it looked like she was back on 4 legs, one would slip from under her and her belly would flop down on the ice. Doof! Woo! On her bare feet, Elsie skated over to help her friend. When she saw one of Wooly's legs sliding down, she would lean all her weight against it to push it up, but her little frame was no match for the mammoth's. And down they would both go. Doof! Woo! Finally, Elsie managed to skate round the mammoth, pushing each leg in turn, making sure they were all upright. In the distance, she could see their Persians gathering on the riverbanks. Come on, she ordered, but as soon as she had led the mammoth one step forward, she landed flat on her belly again. Bosh! Elsie looked across the frozen Thames. There were planks of wood from her boat that were destroyed, scattered across the ice. These planks were long and thin. It looked like the things she'd seen posh folk attach to the bottom of their shoes to race down the snow-topped Primrose Hill last winter. Skis! As fast as she could, Elsie skated over to them. She picked up 2 of the planks and the length of the rope that must have been lying in the rowing boat. Before skating back to her friend, Elsie laid them down in front of the mammoth. Then she skated round the back, encouraging Wooly to be put up by pushing on her bottom. Woo! An exhausted Wooly soon got the message and stepped forward onto the skis. In the distance, Barker and his men took to the ice, closely followed by Matron and the military policeman. As quickly as she could, Elsie picked up the rope and held it out in front of the mammoth's mouth. Wooly bit into it. Clever girl, whispered Elsie. Whoo! With all her might, Elsie pulled on the rope. The mammoth inched forward. Darn! This wasn't going to work. Darn and blast! Elsie tried again, and really yanked this time. This created some momentum. Soon, the impossible was happening. A real-life mammoth was skiing across a frozen river Thames. Whoosh, 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 went the skis on the ice. Whoo! called out Wooly, joyfully, loving the feeling of her speed. her fur blowing into the cold breeze. They passed by a man roasting chestnuts on the snow. "Lovely morning," remarked Elsie as they slid by. "Even the orphans back at Wormley Hall wouldn't believe this." The man stared open-mouthed in shock as the prehistoric animal let out another excited "Hoo!" Chapter 54. HMS Victory. Ahead in the distance, emerging out of the fog like a ghost ship, was HMS Victory. The three masts reaching up to the sky, the tall, square stern with dozens of windows, the magnificent crest at the top. At the bottom, written in big proud strokes, were the letters Victory. Elsie couldn't read, but she knew what they spelt. HMS Victory was the most famous ship in all the kingdom, if not the entire world. As she and Wooly skied nearer, she could see the Admiral and his men hoisting the topsail. Closer still, she could make out Dotty, Titch and their team loading boxes onto the ship. The girl couldn't help but smile. They were going to make it. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat! That was the sound of a machine gun from up above. They were being attacked from the skies. Shots scattered across the ice, narrowly missing the pair. The shock caused Elsie to stumble. As she tumbled, so did Wooly. They hit the ice hard. "Boof! Boof!" "Ah!" screamed Elsie, in pain. "Whoo!" cried the mammoth. Elsie looked up through the fog. She spotted something in the size of a blue whale floating in the sky. It was so large it was blotting out the sun. It was a Zeppelin, named after its pioneer, Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin. A Zeppelin consisted of a gondola under a huge envelope of hydrogen, one of the huge, state-of-the-art German airships. In the gondola underneath, a woman with a distinctive pith helmet on her head and a murderous look on her face was poised behind a machine gun. It was Lady Buckshot, the big game hunter. You could smell that foul cigar smoke for miles around. Rat-a-tat-tat! Another hail of bullets rained down. They went through the ice, blasting holes in it. Bang, bang, bang! Freezing cold river water flooded onto the ice. But slowly but surely, Elsie, who was laying down, felt it trickle down her neck and up her sleeves. She looked over to her friend. Wooly was sinking, and fast. Whoo! Rat-tat-tat! More bullets, more holes, more cracks, more water, more danger. Whoo! Yelled the animal in fear. Elsie held on to the friend's trunk. "It was going to be all right, Wooly. I'm going to get us out of this, I promise." Rat-tat-tat! The ice beneath them exploded into pieces. Kaboom! The pair were plunged deep into the icy water. "No!" screamed the girl as she disappeared into the depths. Chapter 55. Black silence. Everything went dark. All Elsie could see was black. All she could hear was silence. All the girl could feel was a deathly chill. At first, she didn't know what was up and what was down. Where was Wooly? In all the chaos and confusion, she'd lost sight and sound and touch of her friend. Immediately, the cruel current of the Thames pulled her far away from the hole she'd fallen through. As much as Elsie tried to paddle back to it, that proved impossible. She was being swept further and further away. In desperation, she thumped on the underside of the ice, trying to bash her way through it. Boom, boom, boom! The ice was inches thick. Her tiny fists were no match for it. They couldn't even make a dent. Elsie opened her mouth and let out a scream, but underwater, no one could hear her. Just as she felt the life draining out of her, and that she was sinking down to a watery grave, she felt a surge underneath her. Something was pushing her up. It was Wooly! The girl was cradled between the mammoth's eyes as the sharp tusks smashed through the ice. Crash! Elsie gasped. Ah! Who? The girl was soaking wet and freezing cold, but alive. Just! Elsie slid off the mammoth's face, landing on the ice with a thud. Oof! Although shivering and choking from the dirty Thames water, all Elsie could think about was her friend. Wally! She spluttered. Woo! The mammoth's trunk was just poking out of the hole in the ice, as she desperately tried to breathe. With all her might, Elsie held on to it, so the animal wouldn't sink to her death. Hold on, Wally, please! She cried. The girl knew it would be impossible for her to hoist this 2-ton creature out of the river, but that didn't stop her from trying. Huh! And again. Huh! And again. Huh! Woo! All the strength in the body wasn't enough to save her friend's life. But they hadn't come this far to the end now. There had to be a way to save her. Somebody help! Screamed Elsie. Her voice echoed across the ice. In the distance, she could see a handful of the Chelsea poisoners in their distinctive scarlet coats and tricorn hats coming to the rescue. Titch was leaving from the front. Under their arms, the old soldiers were holding a thick rope which snaked its way across the ice back to the ship. Above their heads, the Zeppelin was circling for another attack. Die, monster, die! Yelled Buckshot. Rat-tat-tat! The machine gun blasted. Another hail of bullets sent shards of ice flying into the air. Kaboom! Slowly, the Zeppelin began coming round again to make another attack. Throw me the rope! Called out Elsie. The mammoth was sinking. Fast. Not only the tips of her tusks were bobbing out the icy water, Elsie hooked the end of the rope, one of the tusks, and tied it tight. Heave! She ordered. The old soldiers gripped onto the rope and heaved as hard as they could, just managing to pull the mammoth's head out the water. The animal spluttered and let out a deafening hoo! Aboard HMS Victory, it was all hands on deck, as the remaining pensioners took the end of the rope. On the Admiral's count. 1, 2, 3, heave! They all heaved, lifting the mammoth up and out of the freezing water. Wally landed with a terrific thump on the ice. Doof! Oh! She sighed. Yes! Shouted Elsie, looking behind Wally. She saw 2 arcs of policemen and military policemen closing in on them. Lift the sails! She called out. Excuse me, young lady, called back the Admiral. I am in charge of this ship. All right then, you say it. Lift the sails! As the magnificent sails of HMS Victory were hoisted for the first time in years, whoosh, 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 the gang on the ice pushed the mammoth back onto her feet. Go, go, go! Called out Elsie. She led her way across the ice to the ship, holding on to her friend so the mammoth would not slip. In the sky, the Zeppelin was hovering round into a position for yet another attack. Behind the machine gun, Lady Buckshot had the mammoth in her sights once again. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat! Ugh! Screamed Titch as he clutched his stomach and sank to his knees. Chapter 56. Titch Stitch. No! Screamed Dotty from the stern of HMS Victory. Titch! Oh, Titch, no! Have you been hit? Asked Elsie. No, I just got a stitch, he replied. Then in his most heroic tone he announced, I'm not going to make it. You go on without me. Leave me here on the ice to die. Die? Titch, you've only got a stitch. It's a bad one. A really bad one. But promise me one thing, young Elsie. What, Titch? Tell Dotty that I love her. Oh! He clutched himself again. Elsie shook her head. She might have been the child here, but she felt more grown-up than the grown-ups. You tell her, Titch, said the girl, hooking her arm under his. What happened to my darling? Called out Dotty from the ship. Titch has a stitch, replied Elsie. Then the girl turned her attention back to the private. Now stop being silly, Titch. Stitch or no stitch, we're all getting on that ship. Oh, I'll do my best, young miss. The wind billowed the sails, and the ship's hull began creaking in the ice. Crunch! A huge ramp was lowered from HMS Victory, landing on the ice with a bosh. Woolly first, shouted Elsie, as they gathered the handful of pensioners to get to the bottom of the animal and push her up by the ramp by the bottom. As the boat rocked into the breaking ice, the ramp wobbled from side to side. Hoo! Hooted the mammoth. Nearly there, my friend, called out Elsie as she used all her might to make the final push over into the ship. Thump! The wooden deck buckled a little under the mammoth's weight. Hoo! Hurrah! All on board cried, overjoyed that their large, hairy friend had made it. Above HMS Victory, the Zeppelin was flying low. Oh, now I've got you, you ice monster! Came a cry from the gondola. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat. All the old soldiers hit the deck as HMS Victory was riddled with bullets. Pow, pow, pow! I've been hit! Yelled the Admiral. Dotty rushed over to him. Where? My leg! Which one? The wooden one. Indeed, there was a bullet lodged in there. Is it bleeding? Asked Dotty. Yes, very badly. I can't see any blood. No, it's just sawdust. You feeling any pain? Not at all. But I'm not going to let that blasted woman get away with this. Chapter 57, Revenge. With its sails in full bloom, HMS Victory began forcing its way through the ice. A cold and wet Elsie looked over the stern of the ship to see who was still following. In the distance, she could see something shaped like a sail, speeding along the ice, overtaking the policeman. As it came closer, she realised the sail was multicoloured. In fact, the balloon they'd made out of handkerchiefs and one pair of bloomers. What? She muttered to herself. It was only when the balloon got closer that she spotted the Professor underneath it. He had attached the sail to his wheelchair and was using the power of the wind to drag himself along. You can't put a great man down, he called out. With one hand, he was steering the sail. In the other, he was holding the dart gun. I have come to take my monster back. This is revenge. Oh, no, said Dotty. This never ends. She called out to the Admiral. Faster, faster! To the ice! The man called back. It's so thick we can't go any faster. Look! She pointed to the Professor. Maybe we can kill two birds with one stone, replied the Admiral, setting a course straight for the newly built Tower Bridge. Looking across from the riverbanks, Elsie noticed that London had woken up and crowds were beginning to line the banks of the Thames. Much to her surprise, Londoners began clapping and cheering. They were clearly delighted to see the magnificent beast, the mammoth, brought back to life, and aboard Nelson's old warship, no less. Hurrah! But there was a big problem. HMS Victory's masts were too tall to fit under the bridge. We're not going to make it, Admiral, called out Titch from the bow of the ship. We need to get that bridge open, the Admiral called back. Elsie spotted a group of dozen children loitering on the bridge, the unmistakable figures of the Sticky Fingers gang. Elsie! They shouted on seeing her. Open the bridge! She shouted back. Up, up! Immediately, the gang began scaling the bridge to find the control room. The Zeppelin was now just behind the ship and gaining on them fast. Clunk! Woo! Also, gaining was the Professor, who fired a poisoned dart. Bing! It lodged into Buckshot's pith helmet. Look where you're shooting, you ruddy fool, or I'll blast you to smithereens, she cried. Then get that preposterous contraption out of my way. The professor fired again. This time the dart stuck the Zeppelin's huge envelope of gas. There was a loud farting noise as air began escaping in a fury. Buckshot trained her machine gun on the professor. Missed! Called out the professor. Check your wheelchair, you old fool! He looked down. Indeed, she had blasted it out of existence. The professor was now skidding across the ice on his bottom. In all the commotion, what neither had noticed, that the tower bridge was beginning to rise. The front mast of HMS Victory just clipped onto one of the sides as the bridge opened. Scream! Ha! Shouted the soldiers on the ship as HMS Victory passed under the magnificent bridge. Hoo! Hooted Woolley, joining in. The Admiral looked around to see that not only Lady Buckshot looming right behind him in the Zeppelin, but also the Professor skimming along the ice at the stern. Order those scallywags to lower the bridge! Quick, smart! Ordered the Admiral. Down, down! Shouted the girl to her friends. Right on cue, the bridge began to lower. The machine gun blasted once again, ripping through the hull of the Victory. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat! At the bottom of the Zeppelin, Lady Buckshot hollered her instructions to the pilot. Up! Up! Darn, said the Admiral. She's not going to fall for it. A tethering cable was dangling down from the airships. Whoo! Woolley? Exclaimed Elsie in delight. This was one smart mammoth. As the engines of the Zeppelin roared, the mammoth used all her strength to pull the flying machine down. Help her! Called out Elsie, as the old soldiers rushed to hold on to Woolley to stop her from being pulled into the air. No! Screamed Lady Buckshot as the Zeppelin crashed straight into the bridge. Smash! The envelope, full of gas, exploded into the air. Kaboom! Oh! She cried as her gondola plunged right onto the Professor, sending them both down into the icy waters of the Thames. Hurrah! Shouted everyone on board the Victory. Hoo! Hooted Woolley. The Sticky Fingers gang all waved goodbye to Elsie. Good luck! They shouted. Thank you! She called back. We'll need it! The Admiral addressed his crew. Now, men, set sail for the North Pole! That's the end of these chapters, folks. If you enjoyed, please do not forget to like and subscribe. And comment down below which book I should read after these ones. See you guys in the next chapters. Bye-bye.